All right, y'all. Today we are going to talk about the art of receiving. Now, receiving is absolutely something that we must address when we are talking about calling in our desires and calling in our manifestations and calling in more abundance. One of the top things that I have noticed as I've coached people on this for many years, coach hundreds of people on it, is that many people have a block around receiving. In fact, it was a huge block for me that I didn't even realize was there for a very long time until I started to do work around my relationship with money and started really understand receiving on another level. And I saw my block around it. And when I made some shifts, I swear to you, so much started opening up for me. And not only did things start opening up kind of on an energetic level and me starting to feel better and me starting to actually see how much goodness was around me, but I also started calling in even more abundance in my life as I began recognizing and opening myself up to receiving, basically recognizing what I already was receiving and letting myself let that in and allow it in and really appreciate it. So, we're definitely going to discuss this today. As promised, I did an episode on the law of compensation a couple episodes back, and a big part of the law of compensation, or also it's the law of giving and receiving, is another way to describe that law. And the truth is that we can only give to the level that we allow ourselves to receive. So I want to say that again. We can only give to the level we allow ourselves to receive. So when I talked about the law of compensation, I talked about how we get what we give. And the truth is that if you don't let yourself get, or if you don't let yourself receive, you also can't give more, right? Because as we know, you can't give from an empty cup. And so many of us think receiving is this very selfish thing, but honestly, receiving isn't selfish at all because it allows you to give, which is also not selfish, in such a bigger way when you do let yourself receive bigger. It's really a cycle, and we can't block either side of it. We don't want to block our giving and our shining our light and our sharing our gifts with the world. And we also don't want to block ourselves from receiving the effects of that, whether that is the compliments, the goodness that comes in, the abundance that comes in around that, or the abundance that comes into our life in general. So, one of the things that I love working with people on, and we do this big time in my work together, is all around expanding your capacity for abundance, love, joy, and goodness, right? It's like, how good can you stand it? Funny enough, in coaching, this is some of the biggest work we do. A lot of us think we just need to heal money blocks and our limiting beliefs, and that's all part of it. But also, we want to expand our capacity for goodness in our life, for ease, for joy, for abundance. Because on a cellular level or on a nervous system level, we tend to attract and allow in what we have seen as normal throughout our life. That's what kind of feels safe to our system, right? And if more goodness starts to come in than we are used to, or that feels comfortable to our system, not necessarily our brain or our conscious mind, but to our subconscious and to our system, what we can do unintentionally is kind of sabotage it or deflect it, not even let it in, not let ourselves take credit for it, right? So, a lot of the work that I do is getting more comfortable with more goodness, getting more comfortable with more abundance, like expanding your capacity for that. And I also think of that as expanding your capacity for receiving. So, today on the podcast, I want to talk about some common blocks that I see the most often around around receiving. I'll give you some personal examples because, like I said, I had this big time. So I'll share how that came up for me as well and how I see that in clients. And hopefully, if you resonate with any of these, it's going to provide some insight and help you to open up a little bit more and expand your capacity to receive, expand your capacity for goodness. And again, how good can you stand it? What a great question is that, right? Okay, so one of the biggest blocks that I see around receiving is actually not just around receiving money, that we're going to touch on that, but a huge block, I think specifically for women, is around support. And of course, any gender this can be, but I see it a lot for women because I think for so many generations and for so many, all of our ancestors and lifetimes for so long, women have done a lot, right? And I'm just talking about historically, what has kind of been the social norm is for women to hold a lot, for women to take care of the kids, have the babies, take care of the household, take care of people's emotional lives, right? It's kind of this I can do it all mentality, right? That's been passed down to us from generation to generation from our ancestors, right? So a lot of women that I see have this expectation that I should be able to do it all, or just because I can do it means that I should. And I love to break up that belief and say, wait a minute, just because you can, it doesn't mean you should. Because that sentence right there, just because I can, I should, is what's going to drive you into burnout. It's what's going to make your life feel overwhelming, chaotic, like you don't have any space or time for yourself, like you can't breathe. There's no presence, there's no joy. It's absolutely a depleting way of thinking about life. Because the other part of this, something that I think about a lot, is that for many years historically, women have not been able to own businesses, right? It's just that's historically it has been the men that has been working. Well, now women are doing a lot, right? Now we have a business, and then on top of that we think we should be doing all of these other things. And that's where I really have to bust this belief that just because we can do it all, it doesn't mean that we should. We're doing more now than ever before, right? And if we try to do it all ourselves and we don't allow ourselves to receive support, again, it's not going to lead to something good. It's going to lean to interruption. It's going to lead to mental health struggles. It will lead to burnout and just feeling fatigued and tired and even health problems, right? When we try to do it all. So, support is something that I would encourage you to open yourself up to more, or see where you are not allowing yourself to receive it for some reason or another, because that's going to open up so much for you and it's going to allow more goodness into your life, right? So, where is it that you could receive a little more support? Maybe you could hire a VA in your business. Maybe you've been trying to do all the things because you're like, well, I can schedule the emails and I can do this and I can do that. And I got to wait till I'm at a certain income to do it, which is what I did. But what I realized is that having that support is what helped me grow my income, right? Because I could actually focus on the things that I was really good at and delegate, right? So that can be really helpful to look at where in your business could you delegate some things and really allow yourself to receive there. That is all around receiving. Okay. Also, maybe at the house, maybe it's hiring a housekeeper. Maybe it's hiring someone to do laundry a couple hours a week. What are the things that you really don't like doing that just drain you, that you could receive some support around? That yes, you can do it, but it doesn't mean you should. And if you hire out and receive support, how is it that you could step further into your genius and create more abundance in your life, in your business, create more impact? This is how I think about it, right? Whenever I hire support, is that then I get to be in my zone of genius and do what I actually love. I get to delegate the tasks that drain me for people who actually like doing those things, because there are people out there that actually like doing those tasks. And then I get to spread the abundance, right? Because then I am offering them a job or a contracted position, right? And I am supporting that, right? So it's, for me, I just think of how that grows all the abundance. It's not just my abundance, but it helps me create more impact, which also has a ripple effect on the abundance that's created in the world or the goodness that's created in the world. And then I also get to hire, and that people are happy to have jobs and they want to, especially if it's something that they want to be doing and that's their career. They love getting hired and they love having that steady work. So getting support supports not only you, but it supports everyone. And that is how I love to think about it. And I see that happening. And where else? Are you afraid to ask family members for support? Are you afraid to ask your partner to step up and do a little bit more? Are you telling yourself, I need to make more money before I'm allowed to receive support? I think that's one of the biggest blocks that so many of us have. And I had it myself, but I realized I had to get over that, because in support, that is how I was allowed to blossom even more. And I was able to give more, which then, of course, goes into the law of compensation, which is that when you give, you get. So this all flows together. And you have to think about it like this: when you allow yourself to receive support, you're going to have more to give. And then the law of compensation is always at work. So if you give more, you will receive more. So it all flows, it all works together. Some other forms of support might be like something like therapy, something even like getting a massage once a month, or one like physical support. Maybe it is getting acupuncture. Maybe it's hiring a coach, right? That's super, super supportive in terms of your mindset and your brain and what's possible for you and all around belief. That's something to look at. And I just want to pose the question to you: is there an opportunity for you to receive a little bit more support? Is there an opportunity for you to delegate, even if it feels scary, even if it feels stretchy, even if you don't feel worthy or deserving of it yet? I want you to know that you are worthy and you are deserving of it. And as long as you have the resources available to you, you can use them, right? And that's something that I like to think is, where are resources coming in that I could use for these things? Even if it's not directly correlated through my business, is there another way that resources are coming in, or that I can ask for support or just start receiving it? And the first one is, you don't always even have to spend money on this. It might be just around asking a friend for support, asking a partner for support, or family, and just being willing to ask a little bit more and receive a little bit more. Okay, now I said I would talk to you about money as well, and some of the blocks that I see around receiving money. And one of the biggest things that I see in my coaching is this idea that we have to have earned it to fully receive it. So, what I mean by that is, we actually don't receive what we already have. There's so many of us who have abundance around us, or have some resources or support. There are things that are already there in place that are coming to us. The universe is like gifting us with different things, right? Different resources, and it looks different for everyone. But we are blocking ourselves from fully receiving it or letting it in, because we're like, well, I didn't earn that directly. I didn't do that. We're kind of deflecting it and not letting ourselves receive the abundance that's already in our lives, that we have manifested, or that we have become an energetic match to. But we're like, no, that doesn't count because I didn't earn it, or that wasn't hard. And I see this a lot, even people who, even in their business, they don't let themselves fully receive it, because they're like, well, that was easy. That was fun. I had fun doing it. What? I can't take credit for that. How could I ever recreate something like that? It was fun. And it's this outdated idea that we had to have, quote unquote, earned it, or that it had to be hard. We had to have some grit or skin in the game in order to actually be worthy of it. And that's just a lie. That's not how the universe works. That's not how God works, right? We are worthy regardless. We are worthy because we exist. And the universe is sending us blessings, sending us miracles, sending us synchronicities, sending us oftentimes the resources to make something happen right? A lot of times I see it where if a business is supposed to be created, right? If there's like this deep desire to create a business, it's almost like the universe supports that in some way, shape, or form. And again, this is different for everyone. And it might be that the person has a job that they're able to fund that with, but they're not taking credit for the money that they're making at their job, right? Maybe they have a job that brings in a steady flow of income and abundance to care for themselves so that they can put money into starting a business, which you, of course, you have to invest in the beginning, right? You have to put energy, time, effort, money into in the beginning. But I see so many people who are like not actually fully receiving the full abundance of their life because they're like, but I didn't get it from my business yet, which I just started, or I started a couple of years ago. It's not through my business, so I'm not worthy of it. I'm not making money, right? And we're in scarcity. We think it's not working, and it's no, that is not how it works. And that's why I love the idea that money is an energetic thing. Abundance is an energetic thing, and it's going to come into you through the path of least resistance, and you can fully receive whatever form that is. So even if it's not coming through the form that you want it to be long term, it doesn't mean you will deflect it. It means you appreciate the heck out of it for where it is right now and that it's here right now. And I'll give you a couple of other examples, right? A lot of times I see people deflecting it from their job, right? Or if they work like a 9 to 5, or if they have a side hustle, something like that's helping fund things, they deflect it because they're like, but it's not coming through my business and I only want it to come through my business. And we don't want to do that. We want to say, universe, I open up all the channels for abundance to flow. I also see a big one of people deflecting it if it's coming through a partner. And this is what's wild. I have seen this so many times. I can't even tell you, where people start working, like one partner, one of the people in the family will start working on their relationship with money, right? They'll come into the movement, they'll start doing their work around their relationship with money. And then they're like, wait a minute. It's not necessarily coming through me yet, but my partner just got a raise, right? Or my partner's income started coming up. And I'm like, yeah, of course, because that's like the path of least resistance. You're co-creating it, right? It's just the power of one. When you're in a family, all that abundance, as long as that is the way that you are within your family. If I know for me, like me and my partner, my husband, we share finances, right? We're married. We decided that's what we have decided. And so for me, if he makes money, I appreciate it because it's coming in for both of us. And that's the agreement that we've made. And if I make money, he gets to appreciate it. And we've both done that. So we both see it as both of our net, right? That's what we both co create together. That's how we decide to see it. And that's what just feels better for me too. And that is not something that I always did, because for so many years, my husband was making way more money than me, like way more, to the point where this was my money stuff back in the day, but I didn't even think he'd want to date me, right? Because he was making really great money. He had this wonderful career. He started very young. He didn't go to college. He came to LA when he was 18 years old and really started working from a very young age. And he had success very young. I met him when I was 24 years old, and I was still in the 24-year-old phase where I was trying to figure things out. I had a lot of student loan debt. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I had my retail job, and I was doing side jobs trying to make my business as a makeup artist happen. And I was filled with debt, living, like I said, paycheck to paycheck, not even sure how I was going to pay my rent. And he had created this abundance. And I thought, oh my gosh, he's not even going to want to be with me if he knows what I actually do. So like, I lied to him in the beginning and I didn't tell him what I did. I didn't tell him I was working retail because I thought he wouldn't want to date me, which is so sad. But after a couple months, I kind of had to tell him the truth. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I was just embarrassed because you're so successful. And he was like, oh my gosh, you think I care about that? What? He felt so bad. And it was all my own money stuff, my own shame, my own insecurities that I had to work through. But it didn't stop there. Also, throughout those years where I was building my career as a makeup artist, and then ultimately, after building that up, decided I wanted to get into something else and was really trying to figure out my life for a while. And I didn't have the inflow, right? Like I told you, all through my 20s, I really struggled with money. And he did not have that curriculum, but I did not let myself receive from him, right? I would not. I even wanted to pay. It was this whole, I think it goes back to this, what's this Miss Independent thing, which was the Kelly Clarkson song, right? Where it's super empowering, this whole movement of being independent and being an independent woman. And that's what I always wanted to be. And that was a contract that I made with myself from a young age. I was like, I'm never going to rely on a man, and I wanted to make my own money. But the problem is, I also, with that, blocked myself from receiving, because it was this whole kind of hard, it has to come from me. And I wanted to pay for dinners as well, even though I couldn't afford it. So it was really challenging in the beginning of dating my husband, because I got it. It's fine. No worries. And I know this is not everyone's situation, but I do see this being a common block, in that so many people don't let themselves receive from outside sources, right? We're like, no, I got to do it myself. I can figure it out myself. And the truth is, sometimes the universe is saying, hey, I sent you this, or I sent you this to support you in growing yourself. Let yourself receive it. And we're so hard that we block ourselves. So I really did a lot of work around that. And then as I got married and started doing my work around my relationship with money, I realized, what if I just decided that the money that he brought in, I could also be responsible for? I could just decide that I manifest money with ease, right? What if I just decided that? And what if I just started seeing that as my abundance too? And what if I started celebrating that and appreciating it and believing that I am also a co creator of it? And I tell you what, that shift, that was my big shift around receiving. It opened up so much in me. And it was literally in those moments that, like, more started actually flowing into me through the channel of my business, because I wasn't clinging to that channel so much. I started feeling safer and letting myself receive from all the resources that were surrounding me. And it opened me up. So I know this is not the case for everyone. I know this, I'm coming from a place of privilege here, but I do want to share it because I know I'm not alone in this. I've coached a lot of other people who have had this situation where maybe they've had a partner that has money coming in and they don't take credit for it. They say, oh my gosh, no, that's not me. That's them. That's their hard work. It's, what if you just decided that you co-manifested it, right? And money is just energy. And if you have it, it means you're an energetic match to it. And what if you just started appreciating it and letting yourself fully receive it, as long as that, of course, is what you all have decided. But whether it's a partner, family, whatever comes in, right? If it's like support from the government in some way, shape, or form, right? Or whatever form of resources that are coming in, what if you just let yourself take those in? Even I've had clients who I've worked with who I've said, what if you just did that with debt? Right? The access to debt, that you had the access to a credit card to pay for something that you really needed, and started just seeing that as a form of abundance that's coming into your life to support you in this moment, and that you'll totally pay it off, right? But like, instead of seeing it as a bad thing or a shameful thing, what if you see it as a gift, right? As a blessing, as a form of abundance. So I offer this to you to start noticing all the channels in which abundance flows into your life, and to practice appreciating it and practice seeing it as, maybe it's just a gift from the universe, and maybe the specific channel it comes through doesn't matter so much, and that there's many channels for abundance to flow through. And of course, if you want to, you're going to have a desire probably for it to flow through a specific channel, like maybe your business or something that you're starting up. And that's totally fine. But I think allowing yourself to start seeing where it flows in all different ways allows us to relax a little bit and realize there's many channels that can come through, and then we can take off the pressure of one specific channel. And when we take off pressure and when we take off attachment, beautiful things happen. It flows so much easier. And what's so wild about that situation with my husband and all the work that I did around my relationship with money is that I never thought I would be able to sustain the kind of lifestyle that my husband initially had because I said he had brought in a lot of abundance. And I did so much work around my relationship with money that right after we got married and after I kind of started just seeing it as this co-creative thing, and he's celebrating it when it comes in for him, celebrating when it comes in from through me, or celebrating when it comes in through us. What's wild is then it gave the opportunity for him to say, you know what, I really want to transition careers, but that means it was like, that means I'm going to transition. I'm going to start something new that I'm going to have to put time, energy, and effort into. And that it would potentially slow down where the abundance was flowing before. And so we made that decision. And from that place of us seeing it as a co creative thing, my income went up that year. So it allowed us to sustain the lifestyle and everything that we had called in and co created together. And I've been able to support that through my channel of business. And I know that wouldn't be the case if I didn't open myself up to receiving. If I really kept that hard, I need to be independent, I can't receive, I can't get any help, right? None of this would have happened. So this work matters. I want to talk about two more blocks that I see around receiving that are common. So, another one is feeling guilty for what you have because others don't have it. This is a big block, right? Whenever you feel guilty or feel wrong or like you shouldn't want any more because there are others who don't have it, that is not helpful. That is a block to receiving. And here's the thing, it's not helping you, and it is not helping the other people who don't have it. If it did, if guilt helped other people, I would say, well, it's useful, right? It's going to help that person who doesn't have it. But it's not, right? It's not useful because really money is being created every single day. It is literally being printed every single day. So there is more being printed every day, and somebody is going to have that money, right? So you shutting down and saying, no, I'm not going to open my channel for more abundance because someone else doesn't happen, it's not going to help that person, right? And like I said, if it did, maybe I would say it's worth it to feel guilty, right? Maybe it would be useful, but it's not, right? And the problem is when you block yourself to receiving, you block yourself from giving. When you block yourself from receiving, you block yourself from giving. So feeling guilty and withholding yourself from receiving more is just going to block your ability to give more, right? Because it really is a cyclical thing. It flows in that way. So it's not useful for you and it's not useful for the other person who doesn't have it. So that is something that you definitely want to address if that is there. And another fun thing to think about is in what ways would you allowing yourself, who knows how to create money and who could create more abundance, if you allow yourself to create more, how could you give to those that you care about? In what ways could you practice more generosity? In what ways could you practice maybe giving more to what matters or to those who are in need, right? Because you might have learned the skill of making money and not everyone has, right? Or not everyone is in that place. Not everyone even has that desire. So, how could you use it for good? That's a great question to ask, especially if you feel guilty. Ask yourself, if I allow myself to receive more, how could I use it for good so that I can start seeing it in a positive way and so that I can start using it for good and I can amp up the giving and the receiving and that whole flow. Kind of like health. I always think, what if we replace the word money for health? Is it helpful to think, I can't receive and appreciate my health and the fact that I'm healthy, if you are, right? Because there's someone in the hospital right now who's not. It's no, it's like we can give so much love and compassion and really, I mean, think about the people who are struggling, but us feeling guilty for feeling healthy isn't going to help them. If it did, we would do it. I mean, for sure, I would do it, right? I'd be like, I'm willing to have some guilt because it helps someone else, but it absolutely doesn't. And the way that I think about it is, as human beings, we all have curriculums, right? We all have, as a human, we are going to have a combination of favorable and unfavorable experiences. We're going to have challenging circumstances that come into our lives no matter what. But the thing is, I think if abundance doesn't have to be one, why make it one? Just because I feel guilty because that is other people's challenge, right? If abundance doesn't have to be my curriculum, I'm going to have enough. I'm going to have enough to work with in this lifetime. I'm going to have enough challenges, but like, why create an additional one because I feel guilty because I don't have this particular one? It doesn't help anyone at all. So that's some of the work that I have done and that I have worked through with other people. But I think the most important thing to remember is that guilt doesn't help anyone. It really doesn't. And you can think, in what ways could I spread the goodness? In what ways could I spread this abundance in a way that feels really good and really empowering and very generous, so that I can open myself to receiving, so that I shift from feeling guilty to feeling empowered and generous and loving and kind, right? That's going to be a much better energy to be in. So I mentioned that there's another one. I mentioned that I was going to touch on two more. So the final one that I want to talk about is around our blocks to abundance, is not recognizing it, right? And this is a huge one. Whenever we have this mentality of it's not enough, I'm always struggling, or I do struggle, and we have this kind of victim mindset around it of I'm someone who struggles with money, I'm just not someone who makes money, I don't have enough, and that's a real situation. And I'm not saying it. I am not saying that, right? That can be a circumstance that it has been tricky for you to make your payments, right? I have been there. I have totally been there, where it's a circumstance that it's going to be hard to pay my rent, right? But the story that we keep telling ourselves about that really matters, and it really impacts how we feel and what we end up doing and what we end up creating. Even if that is a circumstance in this moment, which again, it's been for so many people. Some of the most rich people on the planet at some point struggled, but they had to give themselves a new story in order to get out of it. So, one of the ways to start creating a new story that's been helpful for me is to start focusing, instead of on where we're struggling or instead of on where it's hard, start looking for evidence of the ways in which you do receive, even if it's not money. Well, most likely there is some money coming in. And if you can appreciate it and start focusing on where it does come in, it's going to make all the difference. This is expanding your capacity to receive. Instead of thinking, I'm always struggling with money, it's never enough, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay my rent, start thinking about when money does come in, thank you. Thank you. I am someone who can create money. Start telling yourself this story. Money comes in, even if it's a little bit, right? Even whenever I used to practice this all the time, if I would find a penny in the grocery store parking lot, I would pick it up and I would say, it's raining money. The universe is bringing it. I am abundant, right? Money is just coming into my life with ease. And I just started practicing a new story, which meant I was practicing receiving. And so start looking at the ways in which, even if it's not always money, how do you receive support? Maybe somebody gives you a discount on something. Maybe someone says, hey, I'll help you out with the kids. Maybe someone offers to help you with something in your business. Start noticing the ways in which blessings are coming into your life. Start noticing the beauty in your life. Start noticing when you do have money, when it does come in, when somebody makes a payment and it comes into your account. Start noticing it and recognizing it, because what you focus on grows. What you appreciate appreciates. And this is all about expanding your capacity for abundance and expanding your capacity to receive. How good can you stand it? Our brains are so conditioned to want to look at the problem, and we have to manage our mind to look at what it is we want to see more of. It's a practice. I'm not saying this is going to be easy, but it's going to be a practice. So I wanted to give you a couple of practices that you can do to start receiving more. And these are simple. These are things that you can practice on a daily basis. I think they're going to be helpful. So the first one, just like I said, start focusing on noticing and recognizing when you are receiving something, right? When a blessing comes into your life, when money comes into your life, when a compliment comes in, start recognizing it. Recognize the goodness and start reorienting your identity to someone who does receive, someone who is blessed, someone who goodness comes into their life, abundance comes into their life. Because when you come from that identity, it's going to change everything. Also, with compliments, if somebody gives you a compliment, take it in. Don't deflect it. Don't say, oh, it was on sale. Oh, I had this little thing. I don't know. I've had it forever. No, you say, thank you. Thank you. I so appreciate it. I like it too. Start taking in compliments. That's a way of practicing receiving. Take in good reviews. If you get a compliment for your business or a review that's positive, take it in, receive it. We certainly know how to receive negative reviews or negative comments or something that we don't like that triggers us, right? We certainly know how to receive that. I want you to practice receiving the goodness more. When someone gives you a compliment in your business, take it in. Say thank you. Let it into your body. Let it sink in. Also, again, for all money that comes into your life, this was a huge practice for me. Anytime money would come in, if a check came, anytime I opened the mail and had some kind of check in some way, shape, or form, I would say, thank you. I'm so grateful. Money continuously comes into my life. There's more where that came from, right? Start appreciating every bit. It will change everything. And the last practice that I have for you is to just slow down and get present with the goodness that's already in your life. There is so much beauty on a daily basis that we don't recognize because we are in our head, we're thinking about the future, we're in worry, we're in anxiety. And if you start slowing down and get present to the beauty, maybe it's a hug that your kid gives you, maybe it's a snuggle with your pet, maybe it's a beautiful day. Maybe the sun's shining. Maybe it's the perfect temperature outside and you can go for a perfect walk. Maybe whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, slow down and take it in. This is going to expand your capacity to receive. So I hope this podcast was helpful. I'm very excited for you because this is half of the work that we have to do around our relationship with money and around creating more abundance. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, how you like it. Come follow me on Instagram over at JamieBerman_. I'd love to hear from you. All right, let's go expand your capacity for abundance, joy, love, goodness, and all the things. All right, sending my love.